Once upon a time, there was a boyo who tried to make top 10 lists. This fool didn't know what he was doing, and his craft resulted in some of the cringiest videos on the internet. They were badly edited, with volumes going up and down and cuts happening too soon or too late. The voice acting was so atrocious, even Thor couldn't stand it. It is today that this heathen tries again, this time to make a review. Let's see if skill truly does come with time. Hi there buddy, this is StookyDoo22 and I'm going to talk about Rayman. More specifically, Rayman Advance. This is the only version of Rayman 1 that I have played, so comparisons to a better version will be limited. This thing was given to us through the mind of Michel Ancel, and it has since become one of my favorite game series of all time. In fact, the first big games I remember playing are Rayman 2 and Rayman 3. I didn't figure out what Rayman 1 was until much later when I downloaded the DSi version from the eShop onto my 3DS. I never finished it. That is, until I made a gameplay series of Rayman Advance that I would not have been able to complete without access to unlimited restore points. After starting up the game for the first time, it greets you by taking a cheese grater to your eardrums. For some reason, I could never forget this background, and no other Rayman game goes for this style. Anyway, what we have to do next is make a save file and wonder why there's a triangle as a letter option. After that, the opening cutscene starts where we're greeted by not Rayman as he tells us how the land has been plunged into chaos by Mr. Dark, who I actually like the name of. It works well with how little story there is overall. We're also told of how the Electoons were locked up in cages scattered around the world while this music plays. Throughout the game I was using the Wii U gamepad and the Pro Controller. I actually don't mind the gamepad too much, but controlling this game with it was not working out too well. With that, for some inexplicable reason, I was trying to control the game with the left stick rather than the D-pad. Couple this with the fact that the inputs are very responsive, and Rayman would sometimes turn around when I let go of the stick. To me, the Wii U gamepad's D-pad is a bit annoying, so I eventually just caved in and went with the Pro Controller, and that was one of the best decisions of my life. All the previous problems vanished, except for the touchy inputs. So yeah, if you would play this, definitely go with the Pro Controller unless you like your hands looking like this. I already touched on the music a bit, but it's not all bad. It actually sounds pretty good when there's a lack of notes sharper than a paperclip. However, the amount of music in the game with these high notes is a reason not to sleep at night. I know that compressing the music for the GBA wasn't going to result in perfection, but it would be nice if they had just chosen lower notes in my opinion. Okay, so before I go over the looks of the game, I will say that I had brightened up the footage here because playing it on the Wii U didn't look so good. So yeah, keep that in mind. This game looks surprisingly good for a GBA game. For the most part, it actually looks like it was made for the system, and sometimes it might as well be the PlayStation version. It really brought out the world of the game, and it never really looked bad even though I was playing on a large TV. One thing that stuck out as weird to me though was that some objects have larger pixels for whatever reason, and that kind of brings down the presentation a bit. Okay, so now to discuss what Rayman 1 is known for, its difficulty. To be honest, I can't comment on it accurately because as I said, I used restore points a lot throughout the game. What I got from my experience though is that if the vanilla game let you start again at the beginning of every level after a continue, it would actually be standable, if you had infinite continues. According to a wiki, this version of the game was made to be easier in some ways. There are more platforms, less enemies, you don't lose teams if you die, and the player is given 1 extra health point. However, the screen crunch made to compensate for a small screen makes a lot of the platforming more difficult. This results in scenarios where it's hard to react in time, or leaps of faith where you can't see the platform you're jumping to. After you collect all the Electoons, which I did with the cheat code, you get access to the final level. After a platforming section on a spoon, there are some changes to the gameplay that are caused by Mr. Dark, such as inverting left and right controls and Dark Rayman who mimics your movements as you try to avoid him. There's also the wiggly text, which I really liked for whatever reason. The fight with Mr. Dark was honestly disappointing to me. After avoiding his attacks for a while, he just straight up leaves and never shows up again. Now he sends 2 hybrids of previous bosses after you, and after you defeat them, you get a slideshow of images and the game ends. Mr. Dark wasn't even defeated. I mean, what? But okay. On the bright side, we get this image of Rayman, and it's just perfect. I'm assuming the ending was better on the PlayStation, so I'm going to react to that instead, along with the beginning.